Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of the Ecosystem Experience. It's so fantastic to be putting these together, and I'm really enjoying the conversations, not just here with people, but also the commentary from you as you're watching and listening in to these things. Keep that stuff coming. It's fantastic. One of the great things about ecosystems is this concept of partnerships. And today I'm joined by someone who knows community, relationships, and partners probably better than many other people. In fact, you could consider him as one of the leading voices in and around partnerships. This is Mathew, the co-founder and CEO of Partnership Leaders, a community for people who are in this space to share knowledge, build connections, and partner together. Asher, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. And I hope that the leading voices in our space are the people that are building partner programs and crushing their revenue goals and, elevating partnerships. So I'm happy to be on this journey with you all, and super blessed to be able to do what we're doing. And of course, we'll get into a little bit of that as the podcast progresses.
It's so great to have you here, particularly very early in this stage. It's interesting when you're building a podcast to reach out to people and go, hey, come and join this thing. It's got nothing yet, but you're welcome to come in. So I'm really, really thankful for people like yourself who are willing to come and have the conversations here, but also it's been something you've been doing for a long time. So let's get into it. For those who don't know you, your background's quite different. You've come from a number of different spaces, studying computer science. What led you on this journey and ultimately into partnerships?
Yeah. So when I was at Avalara and I was trying to understand, actually, the company had a problem with how do we scale the number of deals that we're doing on a quarterly basis, right? And that was like a moment for me to realize the value and the outcomes that you can get from partnerships. Previously, and I'll go to that in a little bit, but previously I was um, supporting channel sales at a company called Notice Technology. So I had an idea of like how distribution through partnerships works and the value of a big channel. And it was primarily working in the Microsoft space where, as you know, today they have 500,000 partners of all types, right? It's a pretty big ecosystem. So that's where I would say I got my grounding in channels, right? For specifically, right? And then at Avalara, we had realized that no matter what we did, sales only scaled at 4 deals a month on average, but the company's ambitions were much, much, much bigger, right? And so then the other thing that was interesting about Avalara was that Avalara was a plugin, if you think about it, right? And sales tax calculation can only exist if an invoice exists. So our goal was to plug into any and every transactional system out there. So think of shopping carts, think of payment providers, think of ERPs, think of any transactional tools like invoice processing systems, right? So we were plugged into a lot of them, and I think when I left, I think there were like 1,600 integrations that they had. So Avalara was where I learned about how do you develop a solution with partners and like how do you play in other people's, let's call it ecosystems, right? And Avalara had its own ecosystem as well because we had these sales and marketing partners, and then we had these accounting partners who were a little bit more of influencers because they don't really resell and stuff. And then we had these technology partners where we built integrations into. So that was my first intro into the world of ecosystems. Because when you have multiple different partner types, you have to think about how do they all work together to help you achieve their goal. But then how do you plug into lots of different tools to help those companies or those platform companies realize their value proposition? Uh, and so that's when I really understood like, all right, this is what partnerships is. And then I moved into a partnerships role, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But that was a moment where there was a realization on the holistic power of
Yeah.
partnerships.
So, okay, interesting. And interesting from my point of view that you started there with the recognition of a revenue slash sales scale conversation, which is very typical in a lot of partnering. I think about my journey on that way through was actually coming from more of a tech background. The sales part didn't come till later. For me, it was the scaling of the tech and the innovation. Companies' ability to scale their own product set is it can be limited, resource constrained, that sort of thing. Whereas partners building on your APIs, partners taking it in new directions. And again, I came from a cloud accounting background in that world. That was about
Well, what
new applications. What was that? Sorry.
company was that?
So that was with MYOB here in
Oh, okay.
Australia, which is effectively the
Yes.
Intuit. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're right. So Intuit and Xero and MYOB are
Yeah,
all
yeah.
big players in that space. And the interesting thing there was the value unlocked for the customer in ways that a company couldn't scale. That then led to sales and customer stickiness and all those other sort of good benefits from a revenue point of view. But the start point for me was the tech and the innovation. It sounds like the start point for you was the revenue side of things. Super interesting. Okay, so how did you then move that to something that was not just a job, but became more a passion? Because ultimately you've obviously left that side of things and gone and started the community. You kind of don't do that one unless you're completely crazy or deeply passionate about the space. So talk me through that journey, the transition of it being like, yeah, this scales my sales. This is a way to a means to an ends versus this is a passion. This is a life drive.
Yeah. So after I'd been at Avalara for I think like 6 or so years, I'd really was passionate about this rep to exec journey. And in those years, I'd actually put on what I would call the emerging leaders program at one of Microsoft's worldwide partner conferences. Because if you were to go to Microsoft WWPC, as they call it, you would find lots of very senior executives, right? Because business owners go there, their executives go there. It's essentially like Microsoft's partner palooza, if you want to call it, right? But if you were to look around that entire conference, there were lots of early career and mid career people at the event. They were just manning booths, right? And lining up meetings and stuff. But there was no content for them to understand how to become an executive. And I had the opportunity to pitch to the owners of with the World Partner Conference, the executives, to give us a little bit of space just to put a single track together with 5 sessions around the things that uh, reps who want to be execs need to know. And we did that, and we had Microsoft's chief storyteller, Steve Clayton, there. We had David Meerman Scott, was on the board of HubSpot there. We had this amazing lady who ran all of Microsoft's enterprise field sales team. I think she had like 5,000 people in her org. And then we had Dux there, who's very well known as a branding leader there. And 1,000 people went through this program.
Wow.
So I knew that like this thing about helping people go from becoming from a rep to an exec was a thing, right? And it was my thing, right? And then a little bit later after Avalara, I went to Lean Data, and then one of the Dream Forces that I was at with, I met Chris, and Chris and I were sitting down, and we said, look, where are all the partner professionals who are business minded? Where do they hang out?
Mm-hmm.
We know where channel sales leaders and channel marketers, like where they hang out at conferences and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But where is the platform for partner professionals, just like salespeople, marketing people, product people, finance people? Like all of these people have these platforms that help them learn, they evangelize them, they create communities. Like none of that exists. And then Chris was said to me, I was thinking about the same thing. And why don't we start something? And so Chris actually sent out this first email that had about 13 people on it. And a number of them, us, competed with each other. but we were so passionate about creating a safe space where we could just keep up to date on trends. We could just keep up to date on what's happening with certain companies, and how do we connect each other to qualified partners. And that's how this thing started. And then it just exploded from there. And
It,
this was a hobby.
okay, so it started out of a hobby.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
this
gonna
is
pick
purely a
on.
hobby. This is not a business. Like, we just created this transparently for ourselves. And because of COVID, this community that we had created accelerated so fast that it created this safe space for people to connect with each other when they couldn't meet with each other.
I want to touch on something you picked on there a little bit. I love that this is a hobby, or it's obviously not now. I mean, it's become a business and it's quite successful, from what I can understand. Might look into that, but you touched on there this list of 13 people who were competitors, and it's interesting that as I've come up through this world of partnering as well, people often will say, hey, you can't have the same person managing these two companies that are competitors in the market, or you can't put these two things in a. And a very dear friend of mine, Simon Patfield, who was actually working for me at AWS, and I gave him a bunch of the security partners to manage. And one of the things he decided to do was actually host a lunch, a regular security lunch, and he'd get them all together around the room, around the table. Now, you and I both know from a partnership point of view, putting people around a meal or a drink is an incredible way to break down barriers and bring people to conversation points. But the amount of grief we got in the first time of like, how can you put these competitors together? Like, that's not gonna. It was phenomenally powerful in creating conversation, clearing up myths, and creating a community. Yeah, they're not sharing business secrets, they're not sharing some of that, but they are sharing market trends and knowledge and things. And I think kudos to you both for having that ability to say, these folks may not normally come together, but we're going to start something here. And I think that's what I've loved as well about partnerships leaders. You're in there with people asking questions, and there's a real genuineness to helping each other, regardless of your backgrounds or regardless of your own status in some ways.
Yeah. And, what's, I would say, at least for cybersecurity, that market is so fragmented. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the number one player, I think, has only what, 9 or 11% market share. So there's tons of surface area to go build on. And cybersecurity is one of those, or I would say security is one of those things which will always get funding. And there's always there's budget centers, maybe multiple budget centers inside of companies, right?
Mm,
And
mm.
with that much fragmentation, I think you need to bring people together just to stay sane on like where the market's going, right? Because I would say there's new bad actors coming up today, and then yesterday's bad actors still are around, and tomorrow's bad actors still need to be thought of, right? And so that space for sure absolutely needs some sort of a community or multiple communities. I would say we took a slightly different approach, right? Like, say, once we got involved in a little bit of a bigger setup, uh, Ty Radigan also joined us, and so
Mhm.
then there were three of us, right? And the beautiful part of three co-founders is that if two take a side, then the third one is always the voice of reason, and
Yeah, yeah.
people keep balancing each other. So we spent essentially the next 4 years learning about each other, thinking about like all the different things that we could do. And interestingly, I mean, there were other businesses that we could build, but this one just took off. It was so close to our skill set and our own network and our own domain experience that we said, let's go build this out. Now, every startup gets lucky,
Yeah. Yep.
right? And the way we got lucky first was because of COVID, because COVID was the accelerant to creating this large network.
Yeah.
And on the backside of COVID, I would say the chief partner officer role getting created was the next accelerant,
Yep. Yep.
right? And if you think about it today, like, there are 1,100 or so chief partner officers in the world, which
Mhm.
is a lot of chief partner officers, right? But if you think about it, you've got channel chiefs on one side, which are pretty much distribution oriented leaders, right? But in this modern world, if you want to uh, build with an ecosystem mindset, you need to have a slightly different skill set. But then Microsoft and SAP created this role, created a new identity, and we co-opted into that very quickly.
Right.
We said we are going to help provide definition. We're going to provide avenues for people to go learn. We're going to provide a place for people to figure out how to network into these opportunities, and let's see what happens, right? And so that was like the next thing that helped us. But after COVID subsided, um, we got an opportunity to bring the community together in Miami, and when 420 people showed up, we realized that there was an event that was needed that was solely focused on partner professionals. Now,
Hmm.
you probably have gone to dozens of conferences,
Yeah. Yep.
right? I've gone to dozens of conferences, right? At some level, the conference starts to feel lonely after a time, after
Oh,
a point in time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very.
Also, if you don't know people there, it also feels lonely, right? So the thing about Catalyst is that it is focused on partnerships. So if you are in partnerships, or if you care about partnerships, or you look at partnerships as a career or not just a pit stop, right? Then that is the bonding factor. It's what brings everybody together, right? And I've gone to a number of conferences recently where I'm like, wow, after day one, it feels a little lonely, right? Because you're looking for that glue. And so after the first Catalyst, we realized that there was a need for a modern conference where we could bring people together solely for the purpose of connecting with each other at scale,
Yeah.
right? Now, people use Catalyst for recruiting partners. They use Catalyst for engaging with partners. They use Catalyst for retaining their partners. So, like, the use cases have evolved, right?
Mm, mm.
Now, the other interesting thing is, so COVID subsides, we build Catalyst, then the chief partner officer becomes known to people. We start providing definition around it, right? Right. Uh, Growth at all costs goes away. Profitable long-term companies becomes popular, right? Building profitable long-term companies becomes popular, and now we are in a different zone, right? Where companies of a certain size have to do partnerships because they're not
Right.
getting any capital,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But even early stage companies are thinking about distribution first, which is what all great founders do. So they're also thinking about partnerships. So now we're in another inflection point where executives start to connect with us and engage with us, and executives care about benchmarks and research, and they want to find good talent, and they want to train their talent. So we ended up actually creating a services company on top of that.
Mhm. Oh, okay.
So
Yep.
today, partnership leaders looks a little bit more like a Forrester or Gartner
Hmm.
for partnerships. That's how we kind of are framing ourselves today. But but obviously, like, our roots are in the community, which is very special and dear and close to all of us. And God only knows how many mistakes we made with it.
And
We
it will
still haven't.
continue to.
Yeah, we'll continue to do that, and we're very grateful to all of our members who have been patient with us as we fine tune this for their needs. But a lot of the early members that we had have gone on to do some amazing things. Like, there are VPs in the market now. Are they all VPs at like Fortune 50 companies? No, but can they get there? Absolutely, right? Like, they have a platform that that they know is there for them. They just now have to take proven ways of building partner programs and scaling partner programs and the tools that are available to them and apply them. And we're here to support them.
So one of the things in there that is interesting, and again, it could be the red car syndrome that I'm going through a little bit at the moment. You know, the idea of being seeing things. I've noticed recently an increase in very senior global people with quite significant backgrounds being let go or being out in the market for whatever reasons. And there's a number of different reasons for bits and pieces. We're not going to paint that picture, but but you're talking there specifically about companies recognizing the power and the need for partnerships for, you know, sales scale, for tech scale, for distribution, for all of those sorts of bits and pieces. And I think even customers these days expect software to be integrated, and that needs partnerships and all that side of things. What are you seeing in this space around senior leaders in the role, and are you also seeing an increase in the number of people in the market, or do you think it is just a red car syndrome?
Yeah. So it's partly that. I will say that for every partnerships role that we see on LinkedIn, where somebody's like, "Hey, I'm leaving my role," um, we do see tons of roles get posted in PL Slack every single day. I mean, you're in there.
Yeah,
Our
yeah,
our jobs channel, which is now our jobs and support channel, is the most active channel and has been the most active channel
yeah,
for 2 years,
yeah.
right? So there are tons. Now, the thing that you hit on, which is interesting, is senior roles,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
And the things that's interesting about senior roles is when you take on a VP of partnerships role, you have a target on your back all the time, right? Now, we are, I would say, in the partnerships echo chamber. So when two or three senior roles become available, lots of people know about them. And when people leave those roles, lots of people know about them, right?
right,
Because again,
right.
the
Yeah,
partnerships echo chamber is pretty loud, right? And we are at some level guilty of that, right? Because we wanted to create a voice for them, right? I would say if you were in the sales echo chamber and the marketing echo chamber, you would say an equal number of senior people moving on from their
yeah,
role, or
yeah,
because companies are downsizing in those roles too, or their budgets getting cut, or their CEOs putting a lot of pressure on them. To me, this is a universal thing. Like, companies have to trim down because we are coming out of a world where there was tons of funding
yeah.
and people
For
were
the growth.
hiring left and right.
Yeah,
And when the big companies signal to the market that efficiency is the name of the game, then everybody gets to take a slice of that, whether they like it or not, and it hits partnerships teams more because we are small anyways. And so when you hit this team, then the impact is much louder and much larger because we were lean and mean anyways.
yeah, exactly. But I guess the other side of that is another observation that I've seen you make specifically, probably more on LinkedIn actually than in other places, is the recognition of people who have been senior leaders in partnership moving into other roles that might have been more traditionally filled by a senior sales leader or a different sort of leader. Um, Are you seeing that increase, or is it again just ones and twos, or do you think there is actually a trend and again a recognition of the importance of partnering in the strategic vision of the business growth?
Yeah, so I have now seen more people take on CRO roles than ever before. We have to step back and say, why is that happening?
Mm.
So if CEOs are all thinking about partnerships and then they go to their current CROs who aren't actually acting like a CRO, they're acting like a sales leader or a senior
Sales
sales
leader.
leader,
Yeah. Yep.
and they aren't able to layer in multiple go to market motions, then they're looking for someone who does understand partnerships and can play cross functionally. And that, by definition, is what a partnership leader is,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So it's not a surprise to me, but the people that are also in CRO roles are partnership leaders who came from a direct sales background. I don't believe you will find partnership leaders who came from a product background to be
Yeah.
CROs.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thought because I've been watching those. I mean, thinking about my background, and while I can talk sales and have led sales, it's not my default position. My default is software and APIs and MCPs and all the tech side of things. Um, and it is interesting in that sort of space. And I wanted to talk to you then about that skills side of things. So again, and this leans back into the role that a community like partner leadership plays is how do people transfer their skills? What skills could they be building? So a newer person coming up and through this, what do you think are the skills that are important for them as they think forward 5 years from now and that bigger role for them?
Yeah. So what I have seen, right, is P&L fluency is something that partnership leaders don't have fully.
Yeah.
They may understand one, right? But they have to actually go build it,
Yeah.
right? And but I'm talking about the upper echelon of partnership leaders, right? I'm not talking about like SMB or mid-market partnership leaders because they are not going to get uh, P&L ownership primarily because the teams aren't that big, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
so then if you say, okay, well, there's only like 200 companies that can afford a chief partner officer, which again is also true, right? What do the rest of us do? Well, the rest of us need to get really good at explaining the value of partnerships over and over again,
Correct.
right? Because marketing explains the value of marketing every single day,
Yeah, they do.
right? Sales doesn't have to because their scorecard is already built,
Well, there's a number there. Yep, exactly.
right? And so then the partnership leader at a mid-market or SMB company, right, needs to understand that explaining the value of partnerships is a daily part of their job.
Hmm.
They need to spend as much time on internal advocacy as much as they spend on external advocacy, right? Uh, so I would say that's one part, right? The second part is budget.
Hmm.
You have to understand how to build a budget and maintain a budget. The third one I would say is forecasting
Hmm. Hmm.
because in this environment, and I was just at a CRO slash CFO event a couple of weeks ago, I actually made a joke just to kind of cheer up the room. And when I went up to speak around, hey, how many people in this room think that partnerships is all about hugs and chugs? You'd be surprised, you know?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There
No,
were,
I'm right there
there
with
were-
you. Yep.
and we all laugh about it, right? But there were 75 people in the room. Only two raised their hands. Now, it could also be because they were like, hey, who is this guy? Right?
Well,
But
yeah, yeah,
but I
yeah.
made it in a very jovial way, right? Just to kind of land the point so that I can explain like where that partnerships has moved from an art to a science, right? Because things like an ideal partner profile, the value of partnerships deck, the budget for partnerships template, the how to run a QBR, how to build a joint value proposition, all these things are like they're systematized today,
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
right? It's that's not where all of this stuff is at. Where the market's at for a partnership leader is to understand how to work with resellers, how to work with MSPs, how to work with technology companies, how to work with services companies, right? How to work with hyperscalers, how to explain to your company um, how partnerships is going to help them participate in the AI economy, right? Like this remit is much bigger than 10 years ago,
Oh, huge. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
I,
So
I, I
so so I'll land the point on like for a partnership leader today, they have to be extremely good at explaining the value of partnerships and making the company believe that partnerships today is a science. It may be an art at some levels, but it is science. And also making sure that the company believes that this is a revenue generating function
yeah,
and they
yeah.
need to train their teams up to that.
I think you're bang on there, and I reflect on the conversations I've had in businesses, the people I've coached and mentored on the journey, and yeah, data driven decision making. Absolutely. Like there is no excuse these days in the partnership world not to have rich dashboards, data, knowledge, that sort of stuff. I think the key thing for me, and again, partner people are storytellers, right? And so we're telling our story and yes, unlocking that value. I think one of the key things not enough partner people pick up on is telling that story in language that isn't always partner centric. We're really good at telling it our own way. We're often quite good at telling it through the customer lens. But when you're sitting with the CFO of the business, are you comfortable telling it in his or their language, I should say? In raw numbers. When you're sitting with the strategic officer, are you able to talk through what it means as an accelerator for the business? And I think coming back to that collaboration, because again, partner people are really good at collaborating across the business. But are you good at going into those teams and saying, can I understand what you're trying to achieve? I'll help you hit your goals because this is how partners do it. And in order to do that, then I might need A, B, or C from you, right? I think it's very similar in the senior leadership side of things. Like people go in to go and convince them to do something versus go in and understand first. Use their language and align it back to that. And then raw numbers, raw stories, all that sort of stuff, and revenue to the back of that.
Yeah. So speaking the language, absolutely. But we had Bill Ingram, who's a very seasoned CFO and extremely competent CEO, and he's taking a couple of companies public in a private session for some of our senior members. And what he said was, look, don't come to me and explain how ROI works
But
because
yeah,
I'm I'm the master at that.
exactly. Yep.
You know, like you're not gonna win the ROI discussion or debate with me. What I'm looking to you for is how is the business going to achieve its goals through leveraging your talents,
Yep.
right? And this is a
Yep.
key thing because when people explain the value of partnerships, they also need to make sure that there's a slide in there that says, here is what the company is trying to do, and here's how our activities map to that company, the company's goals. This connection is extremely important, and then when you sit with the CFO, I would say more than data driven, because that is important, but show evidence,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
We have something at inside of PL that we call "Don't act on an idea," because when an idea gets shared, you may be thinking this is the first time the ideas come up, and the ideas probably come up 70 times, right? But what hasn't come up is evidence that the idea would work,
Hmm.
could work,
Hmm.
right? And some signal that shows there's demand.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think these are the things that if partnership leaders out there get really good at, um, I don't believe that they would have problem getting resources. They may not get it right when they're asking for it, but if they've done a good enough job in explaining the value of partnerships, they would get it.
Yeah. It's interesting. The other thought going through my mind as we're talking through there is, as partner leaders, we often fall into this trap of partnerships are external. You touched on it before about the internal sort of things, and I love the comment there before about the CFO, and it
Especially for leaders.
reminded, yeah, and it reminded me sitting with Joe Binns, who's the CFO at Atlassian, and he was very clear. This is my remit. This is where my team are here to support you. And it dawned on me that, you know, we need those partners in the business as much as we need the external partners as well, right? And so it's using those same skills internally and externally. Hey, I'm going to change tack slightly because there's some rather really interesting stuff that's been happening recently in the market. And of course, AI is this big thing. One of the things, of course, that PL is you mentioned it yourself. You're building out resources and tooling and things much more like a Forster and such like. And you've just released a insight report into AI in partnerships.
That's correct.
First of all, did that come from an idea? How did you get to the point of writing that
Yeah.
report?
So we've been talking internally about launching something around AI and partnerships. I would say at some level we are late to the game, right? But I'll explain why, right? A year or so ago, we started working with BCG. And our good friend Jack Gray, who is essentially the chief partner officer of BCG, explained to us why BCG takes their time to form an opinion that is evidence based, and then they bring things to the market that are tried and true, so
Yeah.
that they can take proven ways of growing your business and then transform companies.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we took our time, and Ty was really, was my other co-founder, was really particular about taking our time, looking at evidence of these AI solutions delivering outcomes, and then taking the top ones and just explaining to the market which ones work and which ones don't work, and just giving them flat out tactical use cases. Right?
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
That's essentially what we've done. And this report is provided a very tactical oriented piece of work that shows here are the tools that most partner teams use successfully. Now, m- the the beautiful part of this is a lot of our members got to participate in this, right? And so it's another way of, so I would say one more way of us elevating partnerships by highlighting the people who are builders of partner programs. There are lots of connectors out there, but we want to focus these type of activities on builders, and so we spent a bunch of time uh, highlighting the builders, and so that's how we put this whole thing together. The other thing that happened is our friends at Workspan, who have been our comrades in elevating partnerships for a number of years. It goes all the way back to PL forming and the first catalyst taking place. Um, they have been working a lot on this thing called frontier AI,
Hmm.
where they want to enable frontline partner folks with AI, not the companies. Because, like when you have PRM and all these other products, like they're sort of the company, right? I would say Crossbeam was probably the first product in this space that was sold to the practitioners. And so that's an approach that Workspan is taking. And then we have our other good friends at EY who also said, we'll help you really make sense of this. And Kelly, who I would say is one of the top partner operations and strategy people in the market, spend time sharing with us like how they're using it and how their customers are using AI. And then we took the use cases between Kelly and our team's research and our good friend Sam at Workspan, and then we put this piece together. So it took us 6 months to do it. This was not something that we just did right away.
And I think that's the thing I liked about it was it comes through as more thought through, more methodical, and as you said, had some really interesting sort of the builder mindset and the clear use case side of things. One of the things that stood out to me though, which kind of caught me off guard, again, probably coming from the tech side of things, was that. And I'm just looking at the number you've got here. It was 87% of partnership people are adopting AI versus, say, a 40% against the industry norm. Why do you think that partnership people are willing to accept AI and adopt AI more than their counterparts?
Yeah. So it's a really good insight. Right? To me, partnerships teams are under resourced anyways. So anything that will say, you know, this has the promise of increasing your productivity, these people are going to go and try it out.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Right. For a partner professional to go and get tooling that requires a budget is like pushing a marble over a mountain,
Oh,
like
yep.
it's such
Yep.
a long right. And
Yeah.
these are the realities that we live with.
Yeah.
But Chat GPT and tools like that were free. And they allowed them to build joint value propositions quickly. They allowed them to put QBR outlines quickly, right? They allowed them to skip VLOOKUP and do some manual account mapping, right? Like, so all these use cases that the market was already providing could be done very quickly with for partner teams, and so they adopted it.
It's interesting that you're. I think you're 100% right in the sense of we were always resource strapped, time strapped, that sort of thing. I always found, as much as your partners and you're in there, you're doing your QBRs, you're doing your business plans, or all the partner managers are, and you're spending time with them. I always found asking an agent or a GPT type tool to do a 360 view around a partner just before you went and met them. There was always something you would catch, a new news article, a new award they'd won, or something that was important enough for me to go, that's handy to have in the back pocket next time I'm talking to them, or a change in the industry, that sort of thing. I think for me, yes, the integrations, the tooling, the bits and pieces are there, but for me, it was actually more about being able to look around the corners and see more about my partners, so that I can care more about their world as well. Was the accelerator for how I was definitely using it. As you think about again new people coming in, I'm going to ask you to look into your crystal ball a little bit. And again, this is really hard because this whole world of AI is accelerating so far.
Totally.
12 months, 18 months, 36 months from now, what do you think are going to be the core skills that the next generation of partner managers should be banking on and should be building? And is
Yeah.
AI one of them?
So for sure, AI fluency is one of them, right? Also, I think understanding your partner's business model and how it intersects with your company's business model is
Yeah.
extremely important.
Hugely important. Yes.
Right. And so the joint value proposition, I think, is cool, right? Like, hey, customer X is looking for this. I'm providing Y. Great. Like, it's awesome, right? The scaling factor of the partnership breaks when the business models are not aligned.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
to me, I think that is extremely important. I also believe that future partner professionals who don't understand product and how product gets built, how product gets shipped, um, they are at a disadvantage because this is not just a go to market thing anymore, right? Like the whole value of partnerships is realized when product is produced through partnerships and it is distributed through partnerships and is consumed through partnerships, and then you create this partnerships economy for your company and your partners, right? And so you need business minded partner professionals who can then show up inside of companies and solve business problems through partnerships versus just go to market problems through partnerships. And I think the skills around that are very much available. And if people don't know, they can take free courses for it and stuff. Uh, but understanding how to solve business problems through partnerships, I would say it's a pretty big bucket, and I'm happy to expend a bunch of time on this topic. Um, that's actually the point of view that I think the next generation of partner professionals will take. I mean, I'll give you a simple example, right? Like, if you are that type of an individual, say, for example, you're like, most people like yourself would come to me and say, hey, what do you think about my next role and this and that? And their entire focus is on B2B because you've grown up in B2B, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But if you were to just look outside a little bit and say, wow, what are all the applications of product partnerships in the B2C world, right?
Hmm.
Let's take United Airlines, for example.
Correct.
United Airlines has an app.
Yep.
That app needs at least 50 integrations.
Hmm.
What role is that? It's a product partnerships role, right? Or we take my favorite company, Costco, for example.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Costco has 50 million members, right? That's an audience.
Hmm.
And then they have Kirkland brand, which is a distribution brand, right? It's a wholesale company, right? A program. And then they have their app. And so you could go and participate in building out that program. Now, it may not be called partnerships right there, but the skill set is similar. One of the more impressive partner professionals in the market is Sarah Linares,
Okay.
who went to United Healthcare and actually built the first healthcare marketplace, the way you and I would call it marketplace, for that company.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
to me, I think like that's phenomenal because it's a use case outside of the business biz apps use cases that you and I would normally think
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, and it's actually a perfect and an unplanned, but a perfect segue actually into my upcoming guest, Jason Cormier, who is also someone who has transitioned ecosystem thinking and partnership thinking across industries and audiences, and I'm specifically going to be talking to him about that side of things. And I think you're right. One of those, yes, there are loads of tools, there's communities around, there's places to learn, but that acknowledgement of being able to transfer your skills is it's a mental shift that I think people should be learning and exploring early in their career so that it's easier as you get to our age. I won't age you, but for my age, like it's, once sometimes when you're set in your ways, it's a little harder to shift your thinking. But these things are transferable, whether it's transferable, as you've touched on, into a revenue leader or a marketing leader role, or actually an industry shift. I'm excited by the future that's available to partners in partnership people in general. So as we wrap this up, I'm going to shift a little focus here, a little bit of a quick one.
Sure.
Asher, in your day-to-day life, in the things that you use, the tools that are around you, what's one tool, one thing you can't live without?
This is a good one. Like, is it software or hardware that we're
It,
talking
it,
about?
it's open for a reason, but you pick.
Yeah. Okay. I would say in today's world, obviously, like we partnership leaders as enterprise licenses of ChatGPT, and we push all of our company, and there's at least a couple dozen people here now. So to use it. The other thing that I spend a lot of my time on is Google Sheets,
Oh,
just looking at numbers and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and then interestingly, I do post all of my own content that is written by me. I may be using some AI to like fine tune it on LinkedIn. So I would say LinkedIn is a big part of like
Oh, yes,
where I
yeah.
spend my time, because again, our audience is there and the partner people are there, and so there's a lot of amazing discussions that are happening. But I would say Slack may be the one tool that we can't live without. Like if there was like the highest ranking tool
Yep, yep.
pre AI, it would be Slack, because one, our entire business runs on it, but two, internally we run it. We're a Slack first company. We do not use email that much.
We were at Atlassian, a Slack first company, and coming from 25 odd years of relying on email to suddenly being pure Slack orientated was scary and inciting all at the same time. Asha, a huge thank you for taking up some time out of your evening to join me here. It's been fantastic having a conversation. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being a PL member.
No worries. It's a pleasure to be there. Folks, thank you all for joining us on this episode. I'm looking forward to continue to create these and share these. I'd encourage you to share them. And as I said before, your comments are valuable as I build this out. What things do you want to learn and understand? Thank you all very much, and I'll see you on the next one.